Last but not least, we have Connie Canaday Howard here to tell you about two exciting shows coming to College Theater this fall. Welcome back to the show, Connie.
Thank you.
So I'm really excited about the show that's just about to open, These Shining Lives. Tell everybody about this show.
It's a wonderful piece being directed by Michael Ryzak, who's one of our adjunct professors, and it is a piece based on historical fact of the Radium Girls. What they've become known as is the Radium Girls from Ottawa. So it's based on fact, but then it's fictionalized, so it's a historical nonfiction. So it weaves in and out from fact and fiction, and sort of becomes almost a state of mind and using your imagination. So the settings are really minimal, and it focuses really on the strong bond of friendship and marriage, is really where it focuses, and the heroic efforts that these women did when they were so ill prior to passing away.
So for people who don't know, it's about the girls who used to paint the faces on the watches, and they would lick the point of the brush and mark the numbers, and they did not realize they were poisoning themselves.
Right, because radium at the time was considered sort of to be a cure-all, and the luminosity of the radium, you know, they sort of celebrated the glow that they had on their hands, and it would get in their hair. It was powder, because it was in the paint. So they'd lick the brush to make the brush a point, and then dip it in water, and then dip it in the paint, and then again. So they were ingesting radium. And radium, you know, was being sold as a tonic. It was supposed to be a cure-all, when actually it was resting in your bones and creating cancers. So, and of course it didn't happen right away. It happened very gradually. The company, though, it came to light in the trial that the company knew they were doing this. The girls were tested by the company doctors, but they were never told the results. And so it was finally when someone got sick and wasn't able to do their job, the company had to let them go. And so when the women that this play focuses on, there's 4 of them, got let go, then they decided, not immediately, it took a little bit of time, but they decided to seek a doctor in Chicago. And he told them the truth, that they were terminal. And then they sort of decided, okay, we're going to make the most out of the days we had left. And they got more and more uncomfortable with not saying anything. And knowing that it was happening to other people.
Right.
And so they sought out, many lawyers wouldn't take the case. And so they finally sought out a lawyer who stayed with them through all of the appeals, because it was appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. And that settlement, I believe it was 1936, although I'm not the director, but I think it was 1936, established really the statutes for industrial poisoning in Illinois now, today.
So it's historical, it's emotional, it's a courtroom drama in a way. It's got so many levels.
It's
a
beautiful,
really powerful story.
It's beautiful. I saw
and it's sad, and it's
yes. Oh, but it's also,
but they're strong.
It's full of love. I saw a rehearsal just a couple nights ago, and of course they have some time yet, so it's going to grow even more. But it is so full of love and courage. So it really,
to speak out at that time as a woman was not easy.
And they were good, all of the historical data, they were good Catholic girls who didn't question authority. So it took a lot to stand up. I mean, even ministers and friends in Ottawa, because the radium dial brought in a lot of economy to the area. So people were telling them to be quiet. This was the best thing that ever happened to Ottawa. You must be imagining it. So it took fortitude and fortitude of their families to stand up for them. And with them, Catherine, who is, it focuses on all 4 women, but Catherine's probably the central one because she was the most sick. So she was the one that was sick the earliest. So most of the trial was cross-examining her. And I mean, in the last, she was 61 pounds when she died.
Wow.
So.
All right, let's talk about the next show
Okay.
that you're doing. Captain Blood.
Yes.
Whole new mood.
Right. Captain Blood, about as diametrically different as you can
It is very different.
So, except that somebody is wronged, and as these women were wronged.
But this is a swashbuckling pirates and love and romance and the whole.
Now, it also is based somewhat on historical figures. So Blood is kind of the character of Peter Blood, who is the protagonist, the central figure, had had a varied life, had multiple nationalities that he was a citizen of because of his parents, and he had chosen to settle in England, and he'd trained to be a doctor, but he'd also been a sailor and was a sailor in the French Navy and then a private sailor. So he'd settled in England, and then a revolt broke out against the king, the Monmouth Rebellion, and someone was hurt and brought to him to care for. He'd stayed out of it. He wasn't taking sides, and so he was caring for the rebel, and troops came in and arrested him. And he said, I was caring for an injured man. That's my Hippocratic oath. Mm-hmm. And he was tried for treason and sentenced to death, actually, but imprisoned in Barbados. It was converted to slavery, and so he goes to Barbados and actually works as a doctor. So he has a slightly better stance than most of the slaves who are working on the plantations, and falls in love with a woman of the colonel who oversees the prison, who's a mean, horrible man, and this is a person who has been wronged and still tries to stay noble and honorable even in slavery. Mm-hmm. And they escape slavery, but they can't really find a home because they're criminals. So he takes to privateering, which is not piracy, but privateers attacked enemies of hostle nations, and then, lived off of that bounty.
So it's an adventure.
Yes, and a love story. The two themes, I think, are really about standing up in the face of odds, insurmountable odds, to do what's right, and ultimately it will come around because you are right, and sort of soulmates finding one another even in the most extreme circumstances.
You have your hands full. Oh my gosh. That's a lot going on.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we look forward to seeing that show. Thank you so much for coming to tell everybody about these shows. Thank you for coming on the show. Captain Blood will have performances Thursdays, Saturdays at 8 p.m., Thursdays through Saturdays at 8 p.m., and Sundays at 3 p.m., starting on November 9th and running through November 19th. For tickets, visit the box office or call 630-942-4000. Tickets can also be purchased online at atthemac.org. That's all the time we have for today, but be sure to tune in next month for our next episode, where you can get even more behind-the-scenes details about the upcoming shows at the MAC. I'm Diana Martinez, and thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you at the theater and next time on Backstage Buzz.